What?
Remember when things were different then, but then all things change, somehow rearrange. That's why while we can, we should remember when. Memories are supposed to be reflections of what used to be. That's why while we can, we should remember when.
What are you doing for the next 100 years? We know what we'll be doing by using the powers of television. YCTV's community producers are developing and producing a fond remembrance of the people and events that have combined to become the story of Yakima. Our heritage, it's very much alive in 85. YCTV's community producers will be there from the start to the finish of the Centennial Year's activities. The commitment has only begun.
Here tonight, as Americans, our greatest pride is in having the honor of being the first of these beautiful and bounteous United States to cast all of its 38 votes for the man of the hour, the man of his time, the President of the United States, and the next President. Madam Secretary, the great state of Alaska, America's last frontier, celebrating 25 proud years of statehood, cast a unanimous 18 votes for our current and future President and Vice President.
Proudly casts all 32 of its votes for the team that is bringing America back.
Arkansas, the land of opportunity, and the state which is going to send Judy Petty to the United States Congress and elect a Republican governor and the first Republican United States Senator since Reconstruction. Proudly cast all 29 votes for the next President of the United States.
And the home of the United States Air Force Academy. Colorado, the home of prairies, Rocky Mountains, and the mile-high capital city of Denver. Colorado.
Madam Secretary, Connecticut, the Constitution state, passes 35 votes.
Madam Secretary, for the purpose of casting Delaware's votes, Delaware, the state that began this wonderful United States of America, I would like to introduce the next governor of the state of Delaware.
Madam Secretary, Delaware indeed the first state of the United States of America, where we don't raise taxes, we cut them.
The next Super Bowl champion, Washington Redskins. Wishes to give the honor of casting its precious delegate votes.
Madam Chairman, Florida honors its great senior citizen population by casting its entire 82 votes for the man who saved the Social Security system.
State of Georgia, the Empire State of the South, hopefully the host of the 1988 Republican Convention. The state of Georgia, with 57% of its delegation women, proudly cast its 37 votes for the team that brought America back.
We are not able to vote in the presidential election. We proudly cast all 4 votes for our great president,
Hawaii, the Aloha State, celebrating its 25th anniversary of statehood, proudly casts all of its 14 votes.
Madam Secretary, Idaho, the gem of the mountains, number 2 in the nation in percentage of votes cast for Ronald.
Mr. Chairman, with one delegate choosing not to participate, Illinois, the home of great Republican presidents from Lincoln to Reagan, the home of the Illinois Advantage, Charles Percy, the host to the 1985 National Young Republican Convention, and the home of the National League and American League champions, the Cubs and the White Sox, proudly and unanimously without dissent cast 92 votes for the next president and vice president. Indiana is the largest state in the nation that has not only a Republican governor in Bob Orr, but a Republican lieutenant governor in John Mutz, Republican control of both houses of the state legislature, and 2 Republican senators in Dick Lugar and Dan Quayle.
Iowa, the state that leads the way in agriculture, in political caucuses, and in common sense, proudly cast their 37 votes for 4 more years.
Madam Secretary, Kansas, the home of our great senior Senator Bob Dole, our junior Senator Nancy Landon Casabaum, and our adopted daughter, the Secretary of Transportation, Elizabeth Dole, who hold high the beacon light of opportunity in politics for women in this country, proudly cast its 32 votes.
Madam Secretary, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, the home of Mary T. Maher, winner of 3 Olympic gold medals in swimming and holder of the world record in the 200-meter butterfly, proudly casts all of its votes for Secretary.
Louisiana, the future home of the 1988 Republican Convention. Home of the spectacular 1984 World's Fair in beautiful New Orleans, where all Americans come for relaxation and celebration. Proud to cast its total of 41
State of Maine, the summer home of our great Vice President, proudly votes 20 votes for President Reagan.
Free state of Maryland, the land of pleasant living on the shores of the beautiful Chesapeake Bay, celebrating this year her 350th anniversary, proudly cast
Great Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the home of the Pilgrims, the hub of the universe, the heart of New England, the habitat of higher learning, the haven of democracy, proudly cast 50.
Madam Secretary, Michigan, the state which this fall will replace the nation's most liberal senator, Carl Levin, with a great Republican senator, Jack Lousma. Considers it a great, great honor to cast 77 votes.
Minnesota, home of the winning Minnesota Twins and 2 winning Republican U.S. senators, has had the honor, dubious at that, of giving you Eugene McCarthy and Hubert Humphrey. And we now give you another in the long line of candidates. We will beat Walter Mondale. Minnesota confidently cast the...
Missouri, the home of the Fighting Tigers, the finest team in the Big 8.
Madam Secretary, the state of Missouri, which has cast its votes for the winning presidential candidate every election except one in this century, and which will cast
Montana, home of spacious skies, purple mountains, majesties, and a few less amber waves of grain than we had hoped for this year. Montana, the state that will retire 1 liberal United States senator and elect Chuck Cousins to represent Montana and to help our great president in the Senate. Montana, the home of a great congressman for America and eastern Montana, Ron.
The Cornhusker state of Nebraska expects to send Nancy Hope to Washington to support President Reagan, cast 24 votes.
The tourism capital of the world, the state with the most attractive free enterprise climate in the nation, the home of Senator Paul Laxalt, the home of Senator Chick Heck, the home of Congresswoman Barbara Vukanovich, the home of Republican National Chairman Frank Fahrenkopf. Proudly cast its 22 votes.
And since we know no candidate of either party has won the presidency without winning New Hampshire's first in the nation primary, we confidently cast
the magnificent Garden State of New Jersey, home of farms and beautiful beaches, as well as industry and commerce, and home to the greatest governor in the 50 United States, Governor Tom Kane. Is proud to support our nation's best president since Abraham Lincoln.
The great state of New Mexico, the land of enchantment, the home, the treasure of the United States, the home of our senior senator in the Budget Committee, Senator Pete V. Domenici, the home of Congressman Manuel Lujan and Congressman Joe Skeen. Proudly, without hesitation, cast.
From the land of North Carolina, first in freedom, first in flight, and first
North Dakota, where the West truly begins, and where Teddy Roosevelt restored his health and prepared himself for national leadership, proudly and with great enthusiasm, casts 18 votes.
The versatile state of Oklahoma, proud of its heritage, proud of its natural resources, its opportunities for developing business and its new technology, is equally proud of the young United States Senator, the youngest senator ever to be elected to this august body, the Honorable Don Nichols.
Madam Secretary, the great green state of Oregon, whose real name is O'Regan, the state that is now open for business, proudly casts
the proud Keystone State of Pennsylvania, the largest state in this nation with a Republican governor and 2 Republican senators, the home of George Mifflin Dallas, who gave his name to this great host city of ours, proudly and enthusiastically cast.
Madam Secretary, Puerto Rico, a cultural bridge of understanding and goodwill between North and South America, and the bulwark of American democracy in the Caribbean, cast its 14 votes by unanimous agreement.
Madam President, South Carolina, the home of the Clemson Tigers, the National College Football Champions, and the home of the great University of South Carolina, which bestowed an honorary degree on President Reagan recently, cast 35 votes for one of the greatest presidents that ever served this.
The home of 2 great mountain carvings, a memorial to the Native American Crazy Horse Memorial, and a memorial to the 4 greatest presidents that this country has known. Mount Rushmore, the shrine of democracy. The South Dakota delegation is happy and
proud to present 19 votes in favor of another great, worthy, and honorable president.
The great and beautiful state of Utah, the ski capital of the world, the land possessed of great national parks and a definite family attraction.
Vermont, the land of cool green mountains and lovely fertile valleys, this continent's first free and sovereign republic, where independence and individualism have always been inalienable rights, where it is understood that no person is ever judged successful until they have accepted their responsibilities to those less fortunate than themselves, where President Calvin Coolidge was born and learned his gentle, direct, and firm ways, cast every vote it has for one of its favorite presidents.
Virginia, the most Republican of all of the southern states. Virginia, which has supported the Republican nominee for president in every election save one since 1948, proudly records its 50 votes.
People of the United States Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. John, St. Thomas, citizens of this bastion of freedom and democracy in the Caribbean for over 60 years, hopes that the official commitment in the 1984 platform supporting our right to vote in national elections for the President of the United States will finally become a reality under President Reagan, so that we can fully partake of the American dream. The Virgin Islands proudly casts its 4 precious votes.
Madam Chairman, the real Washington, from the beautiful Puget Sound to the wheatland of eastern Washington, we are proud to claim the sparkling emerald city of Seattle, home of the greatest Boeing aircraft, Weyerhaeuser, and the Seattle Seahawks. We are proud to claim the jewel of the Inland Empire, Spokane, host city of Expo 74, now celebrating Expo Plus 10, and the great American Luke Williams. We are proud to claim 2 of America's greatest United States Senators, Slade Gorton and Daniel J. Evans, and proud to claim one of America's most courageous governors, John Spellman. But Madam Secretary, we are proudest to claim all 44 votes from our delegation for the team that restored pride, hope, and integrity to America, our greatest of presidents. Got a few other things to do.
West Virginia, the state commits itself to return to the mainstream of political thought in America. In 1984, the state that contributed greatly to our Olympic success with Ed Etzel and Mary Lou Retton very proudly joins with every individual in this great convention center, committing its 19 votes to the Honorable President.
State of Wisconsin, where our family farmers, through their hard work, are the most productive and the most innovative in the world.
Wyoming, the equality state, the first state to recognize that women were equal citizens and deserve the equal right to vote, and home of the nation's first woman governor, proudly casts its 18 delegate votes for the next President and President of the United States.
Watching the political conventions reminds me of the 1960s when I was in high school. It was during that time that on Friday nights we would have the pep rallies for the football games. In 1978, I was hired to be the, quote, electronic media coordinator, quote, of a political campaign for the U.S. Congress in the state of Oregon. Now, my job at that time was to create and produce radio and television commercials for the candidate. Let's take a look at those.
This man is not an ordinary candidate. He is Nick Bunick. Nick Bunick understands your problems and can make a difference for you in the U.S. Congress.
And if you share my concerns and my hopes, then I need your support so that I can represent you and your families back in Congress.
Pick Nick Bunick for Congress. Paid by the Nick Bunick for Congress Committee.
This is a man who's doing what a lot of us have only thought about. He's Nick Bunick, and he's running for Congress. Because the same things that bother you bother him. The rising cost of living and higher taxes. They don't leave much for our children's education, our health, or everyday living. So Nick Bunick is running for Congress. For all of us. Bunick, the next best thing to running yourself. We've all thought about running for Congress at one time or another. This man is Nick Bunick, and he is running for Congress. Because what bothers him bothers all of us. The rising cost of living and higher taxes don't leave very much for our children's education, our health, and everyday living. Nick Bunick is running for Congress. For all of us. Bunick, the next best thing to running yourself.
We spent over $250,000 on our radio and television advertising campaign. The incumbent spent over $300,000. So here you have a situation where two guys spent over $500,000 to get a job that only pays $78,000 a year. Strange but true, but this is America. There are some countries where they get 100% voter turnout. Australia, Austria, Belgium, Italy, New Zealand, and West Germany. There are a group of 6 countries that get 90% turnout. It's Denmark, Finland, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Norway, and Sweden. In Canada and France, they get 80% turnout. In the United States, we get less than 70%. On election eve, we were at campaign headquarters waiting for the less than half of you who voted in the 1978 elections to make your ballots known to us. While we were waiting, we received word from the National Political Archives that the commercials that we had produced, the Bunick for Congress spots, had been chosen for selection into the National Archives collection. The archives is the place where they store and catalog and keep for all times what they feel to be the best of local political advertising. Right now, I'd like to share with you some of the more humorous and perhaps more offensive of the political advertising that they've collected and have in their archives.
In the next 10 seconds, you will be hit with a tremendous hypnotic force. You may wish to turn away. Without further ado, let me introduce to you the hypnogenesis of mass hypnosis, the Reverend James G. Masters. Take us away, James.
Do not be afraid. I am placing the name Nick Beluso in your subconscious mind. You will remember this. You will vote on Election Day. You will vote Nick Beluso for governor. You will remember this. You will vote on Election Day. You will vote Nick Beluso for governor. You will remember this.
Must be election time. They're throwing mud at Bob Dole again.
graft, swindles, juvenile delinquency, crime, riots. Hear what Barry Goldwater has to say about our lack of moral leadership.
The leadership of this nation has a clear and immediate challenge to go to work effectively and go to work immediately to restore proper respect for law and order in this land, and not just prior to Election Day either.
When you vote, you'll notice that under every candidate's name, he'll list his occupation as a guide to his experience and qualifications for office. Every candidate but one. If Ronald Reagan can't find anything in his background to qualify him for office, how can he expect the rest of us to find it?
Bill Roy is trying to make Senator Bob Dole look bad. He's passing out a brochure that says Bob Dole is against Social Security increases. Bill Roy, come off it. Since going to the Senate, Bob Dole has voted for every Social Security increase signed into law. He's been a leader in support of the elderly. The truth is, the more you know about Senator Bob Dole, the better he looks.
Who is your choice to be a heartbeat away from the presidency?
Have you noticed how the Lansing Zoo, otherwise known as the Democratic State Legislature, is such a sleepy place? Maybe that's why it took them 13 months to lower the tolerance levels on PBB, and 4 years to pass plant rehabilitation to save Michigan jobs. On the energy crisis, the Democratic legislature just couldn't quite summon the energy to do anything. Maybe they need a good long rest. It looks like it.
2 years ago, we trusted the Republicans to mind the store in Washington. They promised us they'd bring prosperity and respect America's heritage of fairness. Instead, they're crushing the hopes of our elderly, of workers, small business, farmers, and a generation's dreams. The Republicans have made a mess of it. Now they want to throw their weight around our state. Only one thing stands between them and us, the Democrats.
A heartfelt political endorsement.
I'm Henry Hudson, not the explorer, the dog. When I got shot one night down by the docks, my life was saved by the mayor, Tommy Smith.
Hear about those city slickers out here, bad-mouthing Doc Melcher? One of them was stepping in what they've been trying to sell. He kept calling me a steer. That'll all come as some surprise to Junie there.
You, sir, how do you feel about Governor Rockefeller's Pure Waters program?
His pure what?
Pure Water.
Oh, yeah.
The Lansing Zoo, otherwise known as the Democratic State Legislature. It's a friendly place. They take care of each other in fine style. They feathered their nest with a $3.5 million new office building just for Democrats and their staff. And they've increased their staff an average of 166% per legislator, all in just the last 7 years. Maybe it's time we pick them clean for a change. After all, when we want something, like property tax relief, they're not quite so friendly.
Tells you he's for Barry Goldwater. You ask him which Barry Goldwater he's for. Is he for the one who said, we must make the fullest possible use of the United Nations? Or is he for the one who said, the United States no longer has a place in the UN? Is he for the Barry who said, I've never advocated the use of nuclear weapons anywhere in the world? Or is he for the one who said, I'd drop a low-yield atomic bomb on the Chinese supply lines in North Vietnam? Is he for the Barry who said, I seek the support of no extremist? Or is he for the one who said, extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice? And how is a Republican supposed to indicate on his ballot which Barry he's voting for? There's only one Lyndon Johnson.
Tennesseans speak their minds and stick to their guns. But as senator, all Jim Sasser has done is flip-flop. He promised to vote against Senate salary increases. Then 29 days after taking office, he voted for the biggest pay raise in history. On votes to balance the budget, he voted no 11 times. 3 times yes. On spending taxpayers' money for abortion, 29 times he voted yes. 6 times no. When it comes to making up his mind, flipping Jimmy Sasser is a flop.
I used to work here.
along with a lot of other people. Nearly a year ago, they closed the plant for good. I'm one of the millions of people in this country who have lost their jobs, and we've got something to say to the Democrats. You've been running Congress, you've been running the economy, so we've got just one question. If the Democrats are good for working people, how come so many people aren't working?
Let's get America working again. Vote Republican for a change.
In 1980, the Republicans paid me to go on television because they promised us they would make things better, and I believed them. Well, since they've been in control, unemployment is the highest since the Great Depression, and businesses are closing down every day. Millions of Americans are without jobs, and we've got to do something. I'm a Democrat, but I voted Republican once. It's a mistake I'll never make again, and I didn't get paid to say that.
A photograph of Governor Pat Brown. It is a pictorial forgery and is the admitted work of the Nixon organization. The picture has been deliberately doctored. In this Nixon pamphlet, Pat Brown and the CDC, the governor is shown purportedly applauding a statement that he supports admission of Red China to the UN, a position he has always, in fact, opposed. Here's the actual picture. As you can see, the governor was applauding a 12-year-old polio victim standing beside him in braces and on crutches. Another photo hoax appears in this pamphlet, California Dynasty of Communism, which has been circulated by Nixon workers. Here you see the governor apparently bowing subserviently to Nikita Khrushchev, pictured opposite. Now, where did they get this picture? It was cut out of a news photo of Governor and Mrs. Brown greeting a Laotian minstrel girl on an officially sponsored goodwill mission. Another case of deliberate doctoring. Repudiate these dishonest attacks on the Democratic Party and your leaders, and re-elect Pat Brown.
In 1976, Jimmy Carter said, "Why not the best? Let's look at what he gave us." Andrew Young, Carter's UN ambassador, who called Iran's Ayatollah Khomeini a saint, forced to resign after lying to the president. Bert Lance, also forced to resign. Dr. Peter Bourne, the Carter drug expert, forced to resign after supplying drugs to a White House staffer. And the list goes on. If you want a president whose judgment you can trust for a change, then vote for Ronald Reagan for president.
Let's look at the record of Lyndon Johnson. He was Bobby Baker's best friend. LBJ once said, "Bobby Baker is my strong right arm, the last man I see at night and the first one in the morning." Billy Sol Estes and his connections in high places. A television monopoly forced on the people of Austin. A $14 million personal fortune gained on an average government salary of $14,000 a year. Honestly, it just doesn't add up.
Gee, Dad, is all that true?
Yes, son, every bit of it.
Will you and Mother vote for a man like that?
We won't. We can't, for your sake.
I want to tell you something else. You know, I'm running against an actor. Remember this. You know who shot Abraham Lincoln, don't you?
John F. Kennedy has them all the way, and the way has been the hard way. As president, John F. Kennedy will have the courage to meet the greatest challenge our country has ever faced.
There is an alternative. Vote for Jesse Jackson. Come alive June 5. Vote for Jesse Jackson.
I want to make it very clear, Harry, that on this question of equality of opportunity for all Americans, whether it's in the field of civil rights, better minimum wages, better housing, better working conditions, jobs, I stand for these things.
I'm voting for this, Senator. How about you?
Let's get a real leader and not a power politician in the White House. Vote for Barry Goldwater.
¿Por qué no me acompañan y voten por Presidente Ford?
I urge you to vote for Ronald Reagan November 8th.
Pat Paulson for president.
This is a picture of a dead American soldier shot by the Viet Cong guerrilla in Vietnam. What's our government doing about it? And the 275 other dead Americans? Nothing, not a thing, because we are fighting a no-win war in Vietnam, a war we don't want to win. Well, as an American, I don't like it. I don't like our policy, and I don't like no-win wars, especially wars our men are getting butchered in. Don't you want to stop this war? Don't you care about what's happening over there? Well, I care a lot. That's why I'm voting for Barry Goldwater. Barry Goldwater doesn't want to fight wars. Barry Goldwater wants to put a stop to that mess in Vietnam. That mess that's killing our men. That mess that's costing us $1 million a day. I'm going to vote for Barry Goldwater, and I urge you to do the same. Vote for a real American. Vote for Barry Goldwater. In your heart, you know he's right.
Doctor! 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 Doctor!
And where the right expression? Smile, grin, laugh right out loud, and watch the golden sunshine gather every cloud. Confidence! Hey, hey! It's our salvation. Confidence! The hope of our great nation. Teach it, preach it, shout it, shout it. Confidence! Just have confidence.
Maybe I ain't that smart, but when Judge Hollenbach tells me he cut my taxes, he don't credit me with as much horse sense as Nell has. And since he's been judged, the taxes of my house are nearly 50% higher. Who's he think he's kidding? Maybe Judge Hollenbach should have my job. Was it my business? I deal with that kind of stuff every day.
It's election time, all right. But you know, Bob Dole's out working for Kansas every day, and I appreciate that.
Hi, I'm Hank Donvillo, Democratic candidate for Congress in the 9th District. I'd like to be out now meeting all of you personally, but as you can see, I'm busy farming full-time, harvesting this year's crop of apples. But I can promise you one thing, if elected congressman, I'll be a full-time congressman. That's the way I do things. I go all the way. Meet my pickers from 1966, and particularly my orchard foreman who's been with me since 1952, Charlie Koviak. Next, Howard Lindstrom, who planted the orchard and is helping us manage this year's crop. Next, Ray Bath, who's the man who keeps our machinery in order. Next, Stan Sale, who's my second in command and takes care of the place when I'm gone. Let's give a cheer for these United States of America. Hip, hip. Hooray!
Everywhere you look these days, the federal government is there, telling you what they think, telling you what they think you ought to think, telling you how you ought to do things, setting up rules you can't follow. I think the federal government is going too far. Now they say, if you don't take the portable facility along with you on a roundup, you can't go.
Vote Stevenson, vote Stevenson, a man you can believe in, son. From Illinois, whence Lincoln came, his leadership has won him fame. A soldier man is always bound to think in terms of battleground. But Stevenson, civilian son, will lead us till the peace is won.
Ed Mezvinsky, is that how you say it?
Ed Medvinsky.
Ed Mavinsky.
Ed Mezvinsky.
Ed Mazinski.
Edward Mavesensky.
Ed Mezvinsky.
I can't say it.
People aren't sure how to say Ed Mezvinsky's name, but we are sure of what Ed Mezvinsky will stand for in Congress.
I'm voting for Ed Metabenitsky.
We represent the majority of the people in Alabama who hate niggerism, Catholicism, Judaism, and all the isms of the whole world. So said Robert Creel of the Alabama Ku Klux Klan. He also said, I like Barry Goldwater. He needs our help. Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd.
Does a president know that planes bomb children?
Never get in this booth. Let's see here. Wallace, General LeMay.
Phone only rings in a serious crisis. Keep it in the hands of a man who's proven himself responsible.
3, 2, 1, 0.
24th, 1963, Barry Goldwater said of the nuclear bomb, merely another weapon. Merely another weapon. Vote for President Johnson. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
Eisenhower answers America.
General, both parties talk about bringing down food prices. How do we know which party to believe?
Well, instead of asking what party will bring prices down, why not ask what party put prices up? Then vote for a change.
You know what things cost today. High prices are just driving me crazy.
Yes, my Mamie gets after me about the high cost of living. It's another reason why I say it's time for a change. Time to get back to an honest dollar and an honest dollar's worth.
Eisenhower answers America.
I'm a veteran, General. What's wrong down in Washington? Graft, scandal, headlines. How can you fix it?
Here's how. By your votes, we'll get rid of the people who are too small for their jobs, too big for their britches, too long in power.
The man from Abilene, out of the heartland of America, out of this small frame house in Abilene, Kansas, came a man, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Through the crucial hour of historic D-Day, he brought us to the triumphant peace of VE Day. Now another crucial hour in our history. The nation, haunted by the stalemate in Korea, looks to Eisenhower.
I'd rather have a man who knows what to do when he gets to be the pres. I love the governor of Illinois. He is the gov that brings the dove of peace and joy.
We have done what doubters of democracy thought a democracy could not do. We have yielded neither to the hotheads who wanted to extend the war, nor to the weak-kneed who wanted to quit when the going was tough.
Washington, 1952, home of the top-to-bottom mess. Today, all over America, patriotic men and women are jarred by the constant disclosures of graft and bribery in the Washington administration.
Americans, I come before you tonight as a candidate for the vice presidency and as a man whose honesty and integrity has been questioned. I love my country, and I think my country is in danger. And I think the only man that can save America at this time is the man that's running for president on my ticket, Dwight Eisenhower.
Guess where we are going to travel day and night for president. Let Adelaide go the other way. We'll all go where the take I to Washington. We'll take I to Washington.
Another visit with the man from Libertyville.
But you know, it's amazing how many things there are in television that you don't see. But I confess I rather like it. It's wonderful how sitting right here in my own library, thanks to television, I can talk to millions of people that I couldn't reach any other way. Most of the key men in the Eisenhower administration are big industrialists. They know big business. They know how to advertise their products. They know even how to advertise their political products. But they don't know much about the farmer's problem.
I always stop when I reach this particular spot. Look over there at that house, where you see the lighted windows. A neighbor of mine lives there. Yep, Dwight D. Eisenhower. A man with the most important job in the world today. What do you suppose he's thinking about over there?
But 4 years ago, it was a different story. 4 years ago, many of our young men were on Heartbreak Ridge in Korea. And that was no game. But what do you say? Are you willing to bet everything you love and hold dear that Stevenson can also keep us out of war? Are you that sure of it?
How's that again, General? During the 1952 campaign, General Eisenhower promised a great crusade.
Too many politicians have sold their ideals of honesty down the Potomac. We must bring back integrity and thrift to Washington.
How's that again, General?
We must bring back integrity and thrift to Washington.
Nervous about Nixon? President Nixon? Vote Democratic. The party for you, not just the few.
Who will you vote for? What's your decision? What do you say?
Me? I like Ike.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
the stakes to make a world in which all of God's children can live or to go into the dark. We must either love each other or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
He'd stand up to the Washington crowd. That's what he said. But look at what he's done. Last year, Hal Heflin cast Alabama's Senate vote against Ronald Reagan more than half the time. And last year, Alabama candidate Heflin took more special interest money than Walter Mondale, more than any other politician in America. When special interests talk, Hal Heflin listens. Alabama's voting with the Washington crowd again.
They must lower taxes, Bob.
Yes, Ike, we must lower taxes.
But we have to spend more for defense, Bob.
You see, Ike, we agree perfectly.
Bob.
Ike.
Bob.
Ike.
Will Bob give Ike the additional money for defense after Ike cuts taxes? Stay tuned for a musical interlude. Reuben, I've been thinking about the general and his mob. If you're voting for the general, you really are electing Bob. Let's vote for Adley and John.
In a Saturday Evening Post article dated August 31st, 1963, Barry Goldwater said, "Sometimes I think this country would be better off if we could just saw off the eastern seaboard and let it float out to sea." Can a man who makes statements like this be expected to serve all the people justly and fairly? Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd.
A distinguished legislator, lawyer, and businessman. Washington, found guilty of unlawfully converting clients' money to his own use and barred from practicing law for 5.5 years. Epton, honored repeatedly for service to his country and his community. Washington, convicted and jailed for repeated criminal tax law violations. The U.S. attorney said he didn't even file his returns for 19 consecutive years. Which one do you think should be Chicago's next mayor?
On 6 votes in the U.S. Senate to extend benefits for disabled veterans, Wendell Anderson missed all 6. He didn't vote on aid to handicapped children or to fund the emergency farm bill. He missed 7 votes to help the elderly, 12 defense bills, 7 appropriations bills, aid to schools. First, he appoints himself to the job. Then he doesn't show up for work. Let's elect a senator who will.
On May 7, 1971, Warren and Rosina Matthews were gunned down in their Marietta home. 7 men were convicted, but later had to be set free because the district attorney bungled the case. That district attorney was Buddy Darden. Judge Joseph Moy blamed Buddy Darden for the failure to pursue important leads in the case. Buddy Darden has proved his bad judgment by making mistakes that set killers free. Why send him to Congress so he can prove it again?
Hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Оглядывайтесь, мы вас не добили под Сталинградом, на Украине, в Беларуси.
For which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible.
Против нас и будете опять готовить нападение, мы так ухнем, что
Justice for all.
I want American kids to grow up as Americans, and they will, if we have the guts to make our intentions clear. So clear they don't need translation or interpretation, just respect for a country prepared as no country in all history ever was.
In your heart, you know he's right.
Do you know what people used to do? They used to explode atomic bombs in the air. Now, children should have lots of vitamin A and calcium, but they shouldn't have any strontium-90 or cesium-137. These things come from atomic bombs, and they're radioactive. They can make you die. Do you know what people finally did? They got together and signed a nuclear test ban treaty, and then the radioactive poison started to go away. But now, there's a man who wants to be president of the United States, and he doesn't like this treaty. He fought against it. He even voted against it. He wants to go on testing more bombs. His name is Barry Goldwater. And if he's elected, they might start testing all over again.
Joe! Yes, Sam? Take a look at today's timetable. Only one of these trains can get through to Washington. 44 is a single track, you know.
President, get behind the president. We want to win the war. Right behind the president. 4, 9, 3, 4.
Can you name 5 things Paul Sarbanes has done for you?
No.
Can you name 3 things Paul Sarbanes has done for you?
No, I can't.
Can you name anything Paul Sarbanes has done for you?
Who's he?
On November 7th, go out and help someone vote. On November 7th, go out and help someone vote. On November 7th, go out and help someone vote.
The donkey is tired and thin. The elephant thinks he'll move in. They yell and they fuss, but they ain't fooling us, 'cause their brothers ride under the skin. It's the same merry-go-round. Which one will you ride this year? The donkey and elephant bob up and down on the same merry-go-round. What? No, Mickey Mouse, what kind of a party is this? Your lions roar, your tigers snore. I've heard them roar and snore before. I don't see why you make a fuss about the hippopotamus. Your dogs bow wow, your cats meow. I know that you can milk a cow, but Mickey makes me laugh and howl, and I want Mickey now. So where's that tricky mouse, that slicky wacky wicky Bolsheviki Mickey Mouse?